Welcome! You ever stop and think about how everything around us, our cities, our food, even our cultures, is connected to the natural world? Well, that's exactly what we're jumping into today with human ecology. We're going to explore the super interesting, always changing relationship between people and their environment. Seriously, understanding this is key to figuring out our past, making sense of our present, and building a better future. So, here's our game plan for this explainer. We'll start by taking a journey through time to see how our bond with nature has changed. Then we'll look at some big ideas about how humans adapt. After that, we'll tackle population and resources, check out our consumption habits, and finish up with the really important idea of sustainability. Let's get right into it.
All right, so let's kick off our journey way back in the past. To really get a grip on where we are today, we first have to see how our ancestors lived and worked with the world around them. And trust me, this relationship has gone through some absolutely massive changes.
This timeline really shows our whole story in a nutshell. For the longest time, we were hunter-gatherers, just living in small groups and moving around. Then, around 8000 BC, a huge shift happened. We started domesticating animals. That was followed by early forms of farming. But the real game changer? Settled farming. That meant we could produce extra food, which led to bigger populations. And then, boom, the Industrial Revolution hit. And that just put everything into overdrive, creating the complex world we live in today.
So if we zoom in on those early societies, you see people living in a kind of balance with nature. Hunter-gatherers had a tiny environmental footprint because their groups were small and their tools were simple. Even the early farmers who used slash and burn, where they'd clear a small patch of forest for a few years, did it on a scale that allowed nature to heal and grow back after they moved on.
But once we figured out settled farming and then industry, well, that completely changed the game. Having a surplus of food meant populations could explode like never before. It's what allowed cities to grow, people to have jobs that weren't just farming, and it really set the stage for our modern world. Of course, this progress had a major catch. Our demand for the planet's resources just went through the roof. This all brings up a really fascinating question, right? How in the world have humans managed to live almost everywhere on Earth, from the coldest Arctic regions to the hottest deserts? The secret sauce is our amazing ability to adapt. So let's check out the theories behind how we do it. The key word here is adaptation. And it's not just about biology, like how our bodies might physically change over many, many generations. It's also, and this is super important, about culture. We adapt by inventing tools, designing the right kind of houses for the climate, and creating social rules that help us survive and thrive. So, how much does our environment actually control us? Well, there are two main schools of thought on this. The first is environmental determinism. It basically says the environment is the boss. It determines what a culture will be like. The other view is called possibilism. This one's a bit more flexible. It says the environment doesn't lock us into one path. It just offers a set of options, or possibilities, and our culture and technology decide which option we take. This quote from Julian Stewart really gets to the heart of environmental determinism. Basically, what he's saying here is that a culture isn't just random. It's a specific response that's been shaped directly by the unique challenges and opportunities of its natural home. It's like a key that's been perfectly cut to fit a very specific lock. Okay, let's connect all these ideas to two of the biggest factors in our world today: our growing population and the resources we need to survive. This is where things get complicated. It's a real balancing act. Over 200 years ago, a scholar named Thomas Malthus pointed out something that was pretty alarming. He noticed that populations tend to grow exponentially, like 2, 4, 8, 16, while our food supply grows arithmetically, like 2, 4, 6, 8. He warned that if we're not careful, the population could outgrow the food supply, leading to a major crisis. It's also really important that we're clear on what a resource is. It's not just physical stuff we can dig out of the ground. A resource is anything that helps us meet our needs, and that includes things you can't touch, like our knowledge, our skills, and our technology. You could even say our ability to innovate is our single greatest resource. So, with more people on the planet than ever before, what does our use of all these resources actually look like? Well, it turns out the picture isn't the same everywhere you look. In fact, there's a world of difference and some pretty big imbalances. Let's just start with this one number. By the year 2050, it's estimated that the world's population will hit almost 10 billion people. Just think about that for a second.
Nearly 10 billion people all needing food, water, and energy. That is a massive, massive challenge. But here's the real kicker. The story isn't just about how many people there are, it's about how much each person is consuming. And there's a huge divide. People in developed countries, who make up a smaller part of the world's population, use way more resources per person. Meanwhile, in developing nations, where most people live, individual consumption is much, much lower. There's a really cool way to measure this, and it's called an ecological footprint. Think of it like this. It's a way to calculate how much of the planet's productive land and sea is needed just to support your lifestyle. From the food you eat to the energy you use and the waste you produce. It's your personal slice of the planet. So, all of this leads us to the most important question of all. With a growing population and these crazy consumption patterns, how do we build a future where everyone can have a good life without wrecking the very planet that sustains us? The answer is sustainability. At its core, sustainability is all about balance. It's about asking this really profound question. How can we meet our needs today without messing things up for our kids and grandkids? It forces us to think long-term, to be smart, and to figure out the steps we need to take. Now, creating a sustainable society isn't just one magic fix. It's more like a four-part plan. First, we've got to conserve nature, protect our wildlife and our forests. Second, we need to ensure equity, so resources are shared more fairly. Third is to help stabilize population growth, which usually happens with better education and healthcare. And finally, we need to develop smart, eco-friendly policies that put the planet's health first. Whew, okay, we have covered a ton of ground. So let's do a quick summary to wrap all the key ideas from this unit on human ecology together. So what are the big things to remember? First, our relationship with nature has changed dramatically, from just taking what we need to survive to using resources on a massive scale. Second, our ability to adapt is the reason we've been so successful. Third, our growing population and wildly unequal consumption patterns are the huge challenges of our time. And finally, the way forward is sustainability. We have to be smart and protect our planet for the future. And that's our deep dive into human ecology. I'll leave you with one final question to chew on. How can you apply this idea of an ecological footprint to your own life? What's one small change you could make to reduce your impact? Thinking about this makes these big ideas personal. For more clear explanations and daily IGNOU videos, subscribe to IGNOU Mind Decoded.